Hello, my friends. Welcome to Music Lessons with Mrs. Morris. In today's episode, we will be learning about a period in music that began after the Renaissance and before the Classical period. It is known as the Baroque period of music.
Mrs. Morris, why is the music broken in this period?
It's not broken. The word is Baroque, and it refers to a time between 1600 and 1750. It was a time filled with grand parties, elaborate decor, exquisite fashions, and beautiful architecture. In fact, the very word Baroque means extravagant, ornate, and detailed. Here are some examples of Baroque art and architecture. The world was changing rapidly during the Baroque period. Many new inventions, art forms, and discoveries were being made. Sir Isaac Newton was formulating the laws of motion and universal gravitation, while Italian astronomer Galileo was improving the telescope. He even discovered several stars as well as the moons around Jupiter. The Pilgrims were boarding the Mayflower on their way to the New World, where they landed in what would eventually be known as Boston, Massachusetts, and Benjamin Franklin was...
Hey, aren't you supposed to be talking about music?
I guess I've gotten a little off track. Now, where was I? Oh yes, the Baroque period. Chamber music played an important role in family and community life. Families might even have a specific room dedicated to music and entertainment. Imagine that. Instead of having your friends over to watch movies or play a video game, your friends and family would come over to play instruments and sing together. And speaking of instruments, one popular instrument of the day was the harpsichord.
It kind of looks like a piano.
It does, but even though the piano was invented around 1700, it really didn't become popular until the Classical period. As you can see from these pictures, the harpsichord looks kind of like a grand piano, but today's pianos aren't nearly as elaborate in their decorations. It also has a unique sound because the strings are plucked. Let's listen to the sound of the harpsichord playing Bach's invention number 8. During the Baroque period, there were many composers, but for this video, we are going to learn about 3: Johann Sebastian Bach, Antonio Vivaldi, and George Friedrich Handel. Antonio Vivaldi was an Italian composer born in Venice, Italy in 1678. At the age of 25, he was ordained a priest and was given the nickname the Red Priest because he had fiery red hair. He played the violin and would later go on to become a music director at an orphanage for girls. One of Vivaldi's famous concertos was called The Four Seasons. Let's take a few moments and listen to Autumn. George Friedrich Handel was a German-born composer, but he lived most of his life in England. He wrote many forms of compositions, but was known mostly for his oratorios and operas. Handel's most famous oratorio is The Messiah, and it is performed in many concert halls during the Christmas season. The Bach family was a very large family who influenced music for almost 2 centuries. So it's no surprise that Johann Sebastian Bach grew up to be such a great composer. Orphaned at the age of 10, Johann went to live with his brother and continued to study music. He played violin, the clavichord, and the organ. Bach loved to study music, and he would often recopy music of his favorite composers. Although his brother had forbidden him to do this, young Bach would wake up in the middle of the night and finish his work by moonlight. At 15, Bach even walked 200 miles to a neighboring town just so he could join a boys' choir. Bach was one of the greatest organists and composers who ever lived. I could go on and on about the amazing lives of these composers, but it's time to end our video. However, your learning doesn't need to end here. In fact, I encourage you to take some time to discover more about the Baroque period and these great composers. Here's a few questions to consider. What is a concerto? Why do people stand for the Hallelujah Chorus? Who wrote Soli Deo Gloria on all his compositions? I've listed a few more questions at the end of this video, so if you're in my class, your assignment for our next class is to answer one of these questions and be able to share it with your classmates. Thank you again for watching Music Lessons with Mrs. Morris. I'll see you again next time.